Okay, real talk. You're sitting at a red light. The car payment is $520 a month. Insurance is another $180. You just filled up the tank. $68. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you're doing the math and thinking, yeah, this is a lot, but it's fine. I need a car. Everyone has a car payment. That's just how it works. And here's the thing. That thought right there, that one sentence, everyone has a car payment, is quietly one of the most expensive beliefs you will ever hold in your life. Because what most people don't realize is that the car sitting in their driveway right now is not just a car. It's a wealth destruction machine. And by the time I show you the actual math on this, the full math that nobody ever shows you, you're going to want to either pull over, sit down, or both. Because we're not talking about a few $1,000s here. We are talking about $500,000. My name is Jackson, and I spend way too much time thinking about how ordinary financial decisions made in your 20s and 30s quietly determine whether you retire wealthy or whether you're still working a job at 70, because you have no choice. If you're someone who makes decent money, feels like you're doing okay, but can never quite figure out where it all goes, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you out. That's exactly who this channel is for. All right, let's get into it. Here's the thing about cars. They occupy this very unique space in our financial lives where we've all collectively agreed, as a society, that it's completely fine to make one of the largest purchasing decisions of your life based entirely on one number. Can I afford the monthly payment? Think about how insane that actually is. We don't buy houses that way. When someone says, I'm thinking about buying a $900,000 house, the first question isn't just, what's the monthly? We talk about the down payment, the interest, the property taxes, and the long-term appreciation. There's a whole conversation. But with cars, a salesperson tells you it's $589 a month, and somehow that becomes the entire decision. Nobody in that dealership is doing the full math. And the dealership? They're counting on that. Now, you might be thinking, Jackson, come on, I need a car. I can't bike to work. This isn't optional. And look, I hear you. I'm not here to tell you to ride a bicycle in the rain. I'm not anti-car. I'm anti-understanding what your car is actually costing you. Because there's a massive difference between needing a car and the specific financial choices most people make around cars. And it's that gap, right there, where the $500,000 gets lost. Let's break this down properly. All right, let's build this out from scratch. And I was hoping you could pay close attention here, because most people have only ever calculated part of what their car costs. Almost nobody has added it all up. We're going to use a realistic example. Not a Ferrari, not some luxury SUV. A pretty normal, mid-range car that millions of Americans buy every single year. Let's say you buy a $42,000 SUV, which, by the way, is almost exactly the average price of a new car sold in America in 2024. Not a luxury car. The average. You put $5,000 down. You finance $37,000 over 72 months. That's the average loan term now. By the way, it used to be 60 at 7.5% interest, which is roughly where rates have been sitting. Your monthly payment? $575. Okay, that feels manageable to most people. $575. It's less than rent. It's less than many people's grocery bills. Fine, but here's what most people don't realize. Over 72 months, you are paying $41,400 in principal and interest alone. You borrowed $37,000, and you paid back $41,400. That's over $4,400 in interest, just for the privilege of spreading out payments on a depreciating asset. But we're not done. Not even close. Let's add the rest. Insurance. The national average for full coverage on a financed vehicle is around $1,900 per year. Over 6 years? That's $11,400. Fuel. The average American drives about 15,000 miles a year. Average fuel cost, depending on your vehicle and where you live, let's call it conservatively $2,200 per year. Over 6 years? $13,200. Maintenance and repairs. AAA estimates average maintenance costs for a new vehicle at around $1,200 per year. Over 6 years, including the inevitable repair that always seems to happen right after the warranty expires? Let's say $8,500. Registration, taxes, fees. This varies by state, but averages around $400, $600 per year. Over 6 years? Call it $2,800. Now let's add it all up. Loan payments, P plus I $41,400 down payment, $5,000 insurance, $11,400 fuel, $13,200 maintenance, $8,500 registration/fees, $2,800. Total over 6 years, $82,300. That's over $82,000 to own one car for 6 years. And by the end of those 6 years, that $42,000 car is worth, if you're lucky, $14,000. So you spent $82,000. You have an asset worth $14,000. The real cost of owning that car? $68,000. In 6 years. In one car. Okay, so far so bad. But here's where this goes from, wow, that's a lot, to, I need to completely rethink how I approach this. Because we haven't even gotten to the most expensive part yet. And the most expensive part isn't any of those numbers I just showed you. It's what economists call opportunity cost. And it is absolutely brutal once you see it. Here's the question I want you to sit with. What would happen if instead of spending that money on a car, you invested it? Not all of it. I get it, you need a car. But let's take even a portion of it. Let's take the difference between what most people spend and what a financially smart car decision looks like. The average American replaces their car every 5 to 6 years. That means most people are essentially making a brand new car decision multiple times per decade over their entire adult life. Let's say you start driving at 22. You retire at 65. That's 43 years of car decisions. If you're the average American running through a new $42,000 vehicle every 6 years, with all the costs we calculated, you're spending roughly $13,700 per year on your car when you average it out. Every year. For 43 years. Now, let's meet someone who decides to do things differently. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus is 25. He buys a 3-year-old used car for $18,000, pays cash, or puts a big chunk down with a short loan, and drives it for 10 years instead of 6. His all-in annual cost, including everything, is closer to $7,500 per year. The difference between Marcus and the average person is about $6,200 per year. And Marcus does something very boring and very powerful with that $6,200. He invests it, every year, into a basic index fund, averaging a historical 8% annual return. Let's see what happens. Over 40 years, from age 25 to 65, Marcus investing $6,200 per year at 8% compounded annually becomes $1,750,000. $1.7 million. Let me say that a different way. The gap between sensible car decisions and average car decisions, over a working lifetime, compounded in the market, is the difference between retiring with close to $2 million and not. Now I rounded down to be conservative when I said $500,000 in the title. The real number, depending on your specific situation, the return rates, your income, and how many cars we're talking about over a lifetime, can be significantly higher. But even at the most conservative end of the math, we're talking about a staggering amount of wealth that evaporates because of car decisions made without the full picture. So why does this keep happening? If the math is this clear, and it really is, why do so many smart, educated people keep making these decisions over and over again? And this is the part of the video I actually find most interesting, because it's not about intelligence. It's about psychology. And there are 3 specific psychological forces working against you every single time you walk into a dealership. Force number 1, identity attachment. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Cars, for a lot of people, are not really about transportation. They're about identity. They're about how you feel when you get in the car, about what you think it signals to other people. There's actually a great book called The Millionaire Next Door. If you haven't read it, put it on the list. And one of the most consistent findings across the thousands of millionaires they studied was this. The majority of them drove used, modest vehicles. Not because they couldn't afford something nicer, because they had long since disconnected the car from their sense of self-worth. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people who are impressed by your car either don't have money themselves, or they're too busy thinking about their own car to care about yours. The audience you're performing for with an expensive car? It largely doesn't exist in the way we imagine it does. Force number 2, the monthly payment illusion. This is the dealership's greatest trick, and it works on almost everyone because our brains are genuinely wired to evaluate affordability in terms of cash flow, not total cost. When a salesperson says, that is only $589 a month, your brain automatically compares that to your monthly income and thinks, I make $5,000 a month. $589 is about 12%. I can handle 12%. What your brain does not automatically do is multiply $589 by 72, add the insurance, gas, and maintenance, account for depreciation, and then calculate the compounding investment return you're sacrificing. That calculation doesn't happen in the dealership. Almost every. And the dealership is very aware of that. Force number 3, social normalization. Everyone has a car payment. We started with this one. And I want to come back to it because it might actually be the most dangerous of the three. Here's the thing about financial norms. They are not benchmarks for financial health. They are just averages. And in America, the average person retires with less than $200,000 in savings, which sounds like a lot until you realize that's roughly 4 years of living expenses for a middle-class household. Doing what everyone does is not a financial strategy. It's financial drift. Now, at this point, I know there are a few objections brewing. Let me address the main ones. Objection 1. But a used car will have more repair costs and problems. Yes and no. A 2 to 3 year old certified pre-owned vehicle has already taken the massive depreciation hit. Most vehicles lose 20 to 30% of their value in the first year alone, and close to 50% in the first 3 years, but still has plenty of reliable life left. You're not buying a 1998 beater with 280,000 miles. You're buying a slightly used, low-mileage vehicle that someone else paid the depreciation tax on. And here's the data. Consumer Reports consistently finds that reliability only meaningfully decreases after roughly 100,000 to 150,000 miles for most modern vehicles. A 3-year-old car with 35,000 miles on it has a long runway. Objection 2. My job requires me to look professional. I can't show up in a beater. This is more of an identity argument than a practical one, and I'd push back on it. There's a significant gap between I need reliable transportation that looks presentable and I need a brand new $45,000 vehicle. A 3-year-old Camry or Accord is a completely professional-looking car. CEOs have been known to drive them. Objection 3. Interest rates are high right now. Shouldn't I just wait? This one I actually respect more. And yeah, the current rate environment has made financing more painful. But here's the thing. Waiting to buy is only a strategy if you're using that time to save cash and buy more of the car outright. If waiting just means continuing to drive your current expensive car while you wait for rates to drop, you're not actually making progress. The strategy isn't about timing the market for car loans. It's about changing the overall relationship with how much car you buy. All right, enough of the bad news. Let's build a real framework that you can actually use. I call it the True Cost Framework for Car Decisions, and it has 4 steps. Step 1. Calculate your total annual vehicle cost, TAVC. Before you commit to any car, I want you to take every single annual cost, payment, insurance, fuel, maintenance, registration, and get to one number. What does this car cost me per year in total? Most people only know their monthly payment. You want to know your TAVC. It changes the whole conversation. A good rule of thumb that a lot of financial advisors use. Your total annual vehicle costs should ideally not exceed 15% of your gross annual income. If you make $60,000 a year, that's $9,000 per year, or $750 per month in total car costs, everything included. Many people I talk to are at 20, 25, even 30% of their income going to a vehicle. That is a wealth killer. Step 2. Apply the 20/3/8 rule. This is one of the better frameworks for car buying that I've come across. When financing a vehicle, put at least 20% down finance for no more than 3 years, not 6, not 7, 3. Keep total monthly car payment below 8% of your gross monthly income if a car doesn't fit those parameters. It means the car is too expensive for your current financial situation. Full stop. A lot of people use 15% as the ceiling for the monthly payment and wonder why they feel squeezed. 8% is the real threshold for a car payment you actually won't feel. 15% will feel fine until it doesn't, usually right around when your roof needs replacing or your kid needs braces. Step 3. Close the gap and redirect it. Take the difference between what you're currently spending on a vehicle and what you would spend under the 20/3/8 rule. Automate that difference into an investment account. Don't try to be more intentional with it. Don't put it in a savings account where you'll eventually use it for something else. Automate it. The day it hits your paycheck, it goes into a brokerage account or a Roth IRA. You never see it. You never spend it. It just quietly compounds for 30 years. This is genuinely how middle-class incomes produce wealthy retirements. Not through hustle culture, not through picking the right stock, through redirecting the money that's currently disappearing into a depreciating asset. Step 4. Stretch your ownership timeline. This one is simple but powerful. Every additional year you drive a car you already own, a car where the depreciation is largely done, where there's no monthly payment, is a year where the full economic picture flips in your favor. The most expensive period of car ownership is the first 3 years. That's when you're paying for depreciation, high insurance on a new vehicle, and the interest front-loading that happens on amortized loans. Years 4 through 10 on a well-maintained vehicle, that's where the math starts working for you instead of against you. I've met people who refuse to consider driving a car past year 5 because of what it might say about them. That psychology is costing them, conservatively, tens of thousands of dollars per decade. Here's what most people don't realize when they're standing at the car dealership trying to decide between the base model and the trim package. They're not just making a car decision. They're making a retirement decision. They're making a do I have financial options at 55 or do I not decision. They're making a compounding decision that will quietly play out over the next 30 years in ways they'll never directly be able to see, because you can't see the alternative version of your life. And that's the cruel part. The wealth you lose to car decisions doesn't feel like a loss, because you get something in return. You get a nice car. You get the smell of new leather. You get the feeling of picking your kid up in something that looks good. The cost is invisible because it's the future version of your wealth. Money that never got to compound, never got to grow, never got to give you options. The average American's financial story isn't a story of reckless spending or bad character. It's a story of 100 small decisions, car decisions, cable decisions, dining decisions, that each feel fine in isolation, but whose combined opportunity cost over a lifetime adds up to a retirement that just doesn't work. And of all those decisions, the car one is uniquely dangerous. Because it's large, it's recurring, it's socially normalized, and it's wrapped in identity in a way that makes it incredibly hard to think about clearly. So what do I want you to actually do after this video? Here's the challenge. Before your next car decision, whether that's next month or 3 years from now, I want you to do one thing. Calculate your TAVC, your total annual vehicle cost. Every dollar. Add it up. Get to one number. Then ask yourself, what percentage of my gross income is this? And then ask yourself, what would the compounded value of even half of this number be in 30 years? You don't have to make a dramatic change tonight, but you do have to stop making these decisions in the dark, because the math on this is real. The $500,000 is real, and the tragedy of it is that it's completely avoidable, not by being cheap, not by depriving yourself, but just by having the full picture before you sign. If this video helped you think about cars differently, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who need to hear this. And if you want to go deeper on this, I have a video on the actual investment vehicles where you should be putting that redirected money. The order matters more than most people think, and getting it wrong can cost you almost as much as the car itself. I'll see you in the next one.